Hi everybody, I'm Anucha from Moms and Crafters, and I absolutely love sharing new bracelet tutorials. So when I saw that these sort of repurposed fabric bracelets were back in style and they were actually going quite viral all over social media, I was like, yay, I need to share some fun ideas for how to do this. So today I'm going to show you three techniques. Now, the one that I showed you before, it's really two techniques, and I have more that I want to show you. So the one that I showed you before was sort of a wider bandana. This one is an infinity one that uses sort of a center focal point, and you're attaching the fabric on both sides. As you can see, it can be a literal infinity, or it could just be kind of just a large circle type of thing. And the final one that I'm going to show you is, again, the same technique as the first, but with multiple charms and sort of a thinner bracelet. Now, before we start, I have to talk fabric. So the fabric that I used in these are actually fat quarters. This bracelet is officially coined for bandanas. You can use bandanas, you can use fat quarters. Just this light blue fabric that I used, you can see it frays very easily. So you're better off using one that does not fray very easily. If yours does, it'll be fine. It's really a just for fun craft, but it won't be as durable. So a very, very tightly woven fabric that does not fray easily will be your best bet. You can also try things like fabric stiffeners and Mod Podge and sealing the ends with clear nail polish and all those kinds of ends to sort of turn it into an anti-fray. But the bottom line is have fun, pull out all those charms, all those beads, and let's get crafting. So I also wanted to mention that I will be creating tutorials for how to do different braided versions and tutorials for how to close these. I don't have all those assets ready. Sometimes I do need to break the tutorial apart just to be able to make it happen at all, because if I try to do everything at once, then I will just never get the project out. So I'm going to address a few things, including, how to cut your fabric strips and how to add beads and all that in this tutorial, but you'll have to look for my next videos, and I will obviously try to remember to edit this and link it when I publish them over here for more of the braiding techniques. So we are starting with a length of fabric. Now, because we are not using a bandana, I'm just going to tell you to cut it the length of a bandana, which is roughly 22 inches. I do think 18 inches will be enough. And for this one, we are cutting it about 2.5 to 3 inches wide. 2 inches wide is good enough. And you're cutting the ends into triangles. This is going to help finish it off nicely when you tie it, but it also helps you get beads and charms on easily. Now, some of these I did cut too short, and I did, sort of figure out different ways to close it, which again is going to have to be a different video. So just definitely make sure you have sort of that full bandana length. And you can see this is quite wide, but you could pinch it nicely in the center. And I kind of did that intentionally to give this specific bracelet, style number one that I'm showing in this video, a little bit of bulk. Now we're taking a large jump ring, and you definitely can go more decorative with this. In fact, I would maybe even recommend that I just pulled out what I had. You're sliding it to the center, and you can see that holds quite nicely over there. So you're just placing that in the center, and you're going to attach a charm to that. Now, you can definitely do multiple charms, and the last bracelet I'm going to show here, or maybe actually it's the next one, has on it multiple charms. But for this one, I'm just going with a simple Tree of Life charm, and we are going to attach it with a very small jump ring. Whether or not you use more jump rings or fewer, this makes it slightly less secure, the bracelet, but it gives it a nice dangle, and it helps it hang in the right direction that I want it to hang on this one. That's why I'm connecting it with using a smaller jump ring and not directly. So of course, do as you wish. Now, we are going to tie a knot on each end. You don't have to, as you can see that it kind of is ready, but we want to give it a little more structure, and we want the charm to stay in place. So we're tying a simple overhand knot on each side of the charm to secure it in place. And again, you want to make sure that it's centered at this point, because after this, it'll be hard to move the placement of your charm. And that is it for the first style. That is all it took. Just imagine you can set out different strips of fabric, different charms and stuff like that at an event, and have kids really have fun with this. Teenagers, tweenagers, we love this craft. So now you can simply tighten it and tie it in a bunny ear knot, or finish it off again with ribbon crimps, which I will create a separate video for. So just go ahead and tie that and enjoy making your bandana bracelets. So now I'm going to show you the second style. The second style is going to be very similar to this one, only we are going to use multiple charms. Now, I did choose the thinner fabric for this one, and again, it did fray too easily, so I should have, treated it first or chosen a different one. We are cutting about 2 inches wide. We are going to have a little bit more of a rope rather than the handkerchief kind of effect on this one, due to the thinness and the nature of the project. Now, I'm cutting it at a diagonal from corner to corner to make two kind of long triangle strips. This actually isn't necessary. You can use the same technique as I used on the previous one. Just cut off the triangle corners. But again, I want to show you different ways that you can do this and the different results that they produce. So you can definitely mix and match tutorials within this post. So we're putting one of those aside, and we are going to use it very soon on the next style of bracelet, and we're going to take one of those and we are going to tie a knot a little bit from the end, a few inches. Now, keep in mind that whatever you leave at the end is going to be your tying sort of surface. So leave enough that you can um, tie the two ends together when you're done on this one, unless again you're going to finish it with a ribbon crimp, which again I will show in a different video. So now we're prepping a few charms that I selected for this bracelet, and we're attaching a jump ring. This is a much smaller jump ring because we're making a thinner bracelet, and we're going to take the pointy end and we are going to string it through and then move the charm to where we want it to be. So I put it through and I'm just sliding it down. You can see that the fabric is starting to fray. So again, this was the wrong fabric choice. Choose a more secure fabric, and we are positioning it. Now again, you'll be able to slide it around still, so you don't have to have it exactly in the right position. And now we are going to be adding our other two charms. So I chose like a few with a similar color scheme. I recommend that you do the same. They're not identical. They don't have any specific rhyme or reason. This is really just a fun craft to mix and match. And our final charm that we are attaching is this mermaid tail. And yes, I missed. I always wonder how much I should edit out of these videos, but I guess I kind of want to show you the whole thing. It is actually very hard to craft while videoing, and so I'm kind of fine with just showing you the mistakes that I made because I'm not looking clearly enough. Um, do make sure that your jump rings, just one tip, is really, really close secure because the fabric can literally just like slide through the opening of the jump ring. So you really want to make sure that it's secure with this kind of craft. I don't think that was my issue here. I think I just had slippery fingers trying to craft through a video. Now you're making the second knot on the other side to sort of sandwich those in. You can decide how far apart you want these knots to be based on whether you want them to have a little more wiggle room for arranging and all that. And yes, you can use lobster claw charms in between the jump ring and the actual charm, if you want them to be interchangeable. And then once again, you have enough space to tie a very simple bunny ear ish. Of course, I will show you more techniques for how to tie this. And again, if you're not using a bandana, you might run short if you don't consider the length that a bandana normally is. So there it is. How adorable is that? And now I'm going to show you the final one. So for this one, you're going to use that triangle that you had left over when you cut the fabric for your previous one. And you're cutting that one in half, but you're cutting it this time towards the point, but the straight side is kind of being sliced in half. Now, don't worry too much if this is not even. And yes, it's going to get very thin at the end. And yes, this one frayed the worst. So yes, you do want to use a much, much stronger fabric for this one. Again, you can use any fabric. It could be a bandana. It doesn't have to be a bandana. It could be t-shirt fabric, but it should be as non-fray as possible. Now, for this one, you need a sensor connector that can have things attached to both sides of it. So I literally used an infinity symbol, but you can use a large decorative ring or something. And you're pulling the thin end through a few inches, and then you're going to tie it in place. Now, really just a few inches. You're going to secure this kind of like very cleverly, as you'll see in a bit. But you're going to attach one end, and then you're going to attach your other thin end to the other end of the infinity. And it is very important to use the thin ends here because you're kind of like disappearing and whittling out that tail that you left. And you're leaving a few inches, but again, you want to make sure that you have enough bracelet left on each side to work with, but you also can trim your tail, your thin tail, if it does end up being too long. Now I'm sliding on a bead. I recommend just sort of twisting the end of your fabric to be able to get the bead on and worrying about getting that extra tail through the bead at the end. So you're sliding it over both pieces all the way up until the center connector of an infinity symbol and then tying it into place so that it sort of sits over there against the infinity. And then you're going to do the same on the other end. Now you do want to use a nice large hole bead so that it's easier to get it through. But as you can see, I'm sort of twisting the end, rolling it up a little bit, trimming it with scissors to make it less frayed and more doable to slide through. I am sliding that through. And again, I'm not speeding this up because I want you to see the real process. Obviously, the larger hole bead you use, the easier it'll be. I'm slowly turning that. Again, a non-fray fabric works better. And I'm kind of disappearing that tail into the folds of the string that I used so that it kind of carries it through the bead without having to worry about threading it all over again. And you can see I did not edit this segment of the video. It worked perfectly. And once again, you're tying a knot. Now, these knots that you're tying now should practically swallow up the rest of that tail. And if it doesn't, you can definitely trim off whatever's left over. But I found that this is really the best way to sort of incorporate it seamlessly in an infinity bracelet so that everything kind of just finishes off naturally and you have no dangling ends, but everything is nice and secure. as you can see. And that's it. This bracelet is complete. And this one, because I used two lengths of fabric, I had tons of space to tie it into a bow even. So this one I'm showing you as a bow, which actually can come off the hand quite easily. So I don't know if you definitely want to do it this way. But it also is a very clever way to tie this bracelet because it looks fun and it's easy to take off, to take on and off. But again, you don't have to. And here I'm retying it actually as a bow again. Sorry. But as a better bow, I hope. But anyway, like I said, I'm working on another video that I have already recorded. I just have to edit for different ways to tie these bracelets. So that is really just a whole separate subject that we'll explore. I'm going to tell you that I have a full blog post dedicated to these tutorials with tons of tips, and I managed to add much more instruction to the blog post because I can sit about it and I can sit over it and I can think about it and I can add things as I need to. So definitely make sure to check out that blog post linked in the description of this video. I also share all my materials and tips for sourcing materials there. If you enjoyed this video, you know what to do. Hit the like button, subscribe. It'll help me provide you with more fun tutorials like this one. And of course, comment if you have any questions or feedback.